the etiquette guru who broke up with a boyfriend over text.
Yes. When you show somebody that they cannot get a rise out of you, you're holding on to your power. If you lose your temper, if you get emotional, if you raise your voice, then the other person has the satisfaction of knowing that they got to you. The best way you hold power is indifference. Etiquette is about helping my students become comfortable in themselves. So moving through the world with confidence and giving them the knowledge and tools to know what to do in any situation with anyone, because etiquette is so contextual.
And if they listen, isn't it such a fulfilling feeling to see the change?
It's rewarding because all you need to do is affect change in one person, see one person's life get a little bit better because they decide to take the advice that you gave. I learned so much of like what their fears are, what their hopes are, their desires, why they want to come and learn etiquette, their anxieties, and their wish to do better, their wish to be a more confident version of themselves.
Ever since I wrote my goals down with the pen, my dreams and reality have both been blending in. I just hope that in the end, my debt don't extend me all my dividends.
Hey everybody, thank you for joining another episode of the Quite Frankly podcast. I am so excited to bring season 2 to you, and I want to thank you for watching, but also please don't forget to subscribe because we're noticing in the analytics that some people are watching multiple videos but haven't subscribed yet, and it really helps me to continue to improve the show. One of those improvements is that this season I'm only having one sponsor for the entire season instead of 5. And it's Lila Quantum Technology. So they are the official sponsors of the Quite Frankly podcast. And I'm so excited because if you have followed me for a while, you know how much I love this technology. They have multiple third-party double-blind studies to show how this affects your health in a really positive way. But also the way I use it is I write my intentions on a piece of paper like this, and I put it in there and it's now in the quantum field. So more about that in a bit, and thank you for watching. Sara Jane Ho. Just for people to know who you are the founder of China's first etiquette school, Etiquette Institute, right? And the host of a daytime Emmy-nominated show, which I just watched a few episodes last night. It's incredible. It's called Mind Your Manners. And you're a cultural polyglot. You speak German, French, Mandarin, Cantonese, in addition to English. And you've lived all over. We talked actually earlier about, you're like, oh, you're Lebanese and you had been there. You knew more places than I did. You lived in Papua New Guinea, in the UK, Hong Kong, before moving to the US. You went to many incredible schools, but I'll just start with Harvard Business School. And surprisingly down to earth, which I love. And you have a very good demeanor about you with this feel-good makeover show. And I think for people who haven't seen it yet, it's sort of like Queer Eye on Netflix, but in a different way. There's a bit of a sophistication and spirituality to it too, right?
Thank you. Yeah, and instead of 5 gay guys, it's me.
Right.
One Asian girl.
One Asian girl. So tell me a little bit about the show. I mean, for people who haven't seen yet, you go in, it's pretty quick. They're like very digestible 30-minute episodes, and you just watch a person sort of change from beginning to end. Yeah,
so because I've had my finishing school for 10 years now, what we did with the show was it's really condensed to 30 minutes, but it really shows how etiquette it's about helping my students become comfortable in themselves, in themselves. So moving through the world with confidence and giving them the knowledge and tools to know what to do in any situation with anyone, because etiquette is so contextual.
You know, I was joking with you when we first started that you have my dream job because I love telling people what to do. Like, you can ask my friends, I'm like, you know what you could do? You know what would make your life better? And they never listen, but I love telling people what to do.
Well, that makes 2 of us.
Do you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like when my friends come to me with problems, I'm like, you should do this, this, this. And sometimes, and half of them actually go do it.
And if they listen, isn't it such a fulfilling feeling to see the change?
Yes. And it's like, it's rewarding because all you need to do is affect change in one person, see one person's life get a little bit better because they decide to take the advice that you gave. And it's, and I think that's what I receive from even shooting my Netflix show, teaching in my school, it's like one student at a time. So
first, I guess my question is why? Right? And I'm sure you get this a lot too, but in 2024, I can just imagine the millennials or Gen Z being like, that's so old fashioned, that's so stuffy to think about etiquette and which fork to use and where to put your knife. But for you, although you do that, right? You'll tell people how to hold their utensils, how to hold a teacup, but it's so much beyond that. So I guess tell me why.
Yeah, and that's why I'm really grateful to Netflix, because I think Netflix is really good at finding new ways of telling stories. And because what I try to do with etiquette is I'm trying to redefine etiquette. It's not supposed to be something that's rigid and inflexible and one big don't, right? I often have people tell me like, oh, I'm too honest to have etiquette. And to me, it's like, that person doesn't truly understand the essence of etiquette, because it's not one big limiting don't. In fact, it's one big empowering do, where you can speak to the person you want to speak to. You can do the thing you want to do. You can express how you're feeling. You can set boundaries, right? But it's all about how you do it, your delivery. And so it enables you. And so for me, when Netflix came and said they wanted to do the show, I was like, oh my gosh, like they saw it beyond what so many people think it is. And that etiquette is actually a way to promote individual and healthy growth.
How did they approach you? Like, how did they find you? What were you doing?
Yeah, well, I was just, in China, like doing my thing, teaching my students. And they found me through a production house, Beach House Productions, based in Singapore. And they, and it was greenlit pretty quickly. We actually were a little delayed with shooting the show because it was mid-COVID. But
oh, it was that long ago that you started shooting?
Yeah, we were supposed to start shooting Jan 2020, but that's when China got COVID, the country closed borders. So it was postponed to it was like end of 2021. We ended up shooting it in Sydney because Australia was safe to shoot.
Wait, you were in China in 2020?
I was there through the whole time. I've done 10 2-week hotel quarantines.
Wow, 10?
Yes, going to Sydney, I did one. Coming to China, going to Hong Kong. I mean, it was just, my whole life was like quarantines.
Those look miserable, I have to be honest. And I saw friends in Korea who were YouTubers, and I'm like, and I love Korean skincare, but I was like, there's nothing that could get me to go there right now, because they were going during the time, and I'm talking only maybe a year ago, so even that late, where they're working out at the gym wearing masks. And I was like, there's no way I could work out with a mask on. I refuse. I don't care what the opportunity is.
I mean, it was insane. It was insane. I'm so glad that we're past that. But in some ways, I look back and I feel that everything happened for a reason.
Yeah.
And I'm glad my show came out right after COVID, because the epidemic, it caused a lot of us to feel isolated and alone. And instead of FOMO, we have JOMO, right? And then all of our social skills are a little bit rusty. So I think that was the perfect time when the show came out in end of 2022, that people could get a refresher. And what makes us human is human connection and belonging, which is, and so the book, Mind Your Manners, the book, is an expansion of that. And it's actually very meaty.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because, and I'll show people who are watching this on video, the book is called Mind Your Manners. I love the cover. And you brought up what people during isolation felt, and how the sort of awkwardness that, maybe not used to talking to people anymore, and it was very intuitive, because I was reading your intro last night. I was just reading the full introduction, and every time I thought something, you answered it in the next paragraph, because you were like, well, people don't know how to act in public. And I'm like, well, yeah, because we just went through and then that was your next thing was like, and some of that is because of the pandemic. and then I was like, every question that I had, it was your next thing in the book. So it's almost like you knew what people would be asking, what they'd be questioning. Do you feel like that?
Yeah, it's funny. I often read people with energy and vibes, and even teaching all of my students, I learned so much of what their fears are, what their hopes are, their desires, right? Why they want to come and learn etiquette, their anxieties, and their wish to do better, their wish to be a more confident version of themselves. And so writing this book, I was able to put so much of all my learnings from teaching, as well as a lot of my personal stories and personal failings, right? Because I'm not a perfect person either. So I just hope that people can really, that they can find this book very useful and very practical in any situation.
It is very meaty, you're right. And I have questions about it, so we'll get into that. But before I do, I want to ask, so back to the whole perception of stuffiness. How important is it? I grew up, luckily, kind of like you, I feel very well traveled. I have friends from all over. And I remember for my birthday, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, a friend of mine took me for my birthday to Normandy, to a mutual friend's castle. It's called Chateau de Belleroy, and it's in Normandy. And the owner was Kip Forbes, who like runs Forbes and inherited it. And I remember it was the kind of like, it was very relaxed. We're all friends there, but there were some nights where they'd be like, okay, we're having dinner in the Louis III room or in the whatever room, you know? And the history of this place, it was like Camilla and Charles used to stay there. His grandfather was married to Elizabeth Taylor, and there was, you could see the history in this place, in this, you know, 17th or whatever century chateau. And I remember there was like all the forks and the knives and whatever. I didn't know what I was doing, but I just would pick up whatever I saw the person next to me. But as I was reading your book, I was like, I wonder if I'm thinking no one really cares because no one brought it up, or if were they secretly mortified and just didn't say anything. And then I thought of another one. I'm like, you know, I have like, you know, trust fund baby friends, and we're eating sushi together with our hands and all that. And I thought maybe the etiquette though is not necessarily in the logistics, but in the fact that we actually just naturally, when we're together, we don't curse, we don't speak loudly, we all speak different languages, we all are involved with charities. Like there's a different etiquette as well.
You know, it's so funny. I often say, and I say this in the book, I see myself as a microcultural anthropologist. And even just now, when you were saying you're moving between your friend's chateau and then between your other friends where you're eating sushi, right, a more international setting, well, each day, our day is made up of so many different microcultures, whether it's our family, work, right? Even different departments at the office, right, will have their own little microcultures, your different sets of friends. And etiquette is really contextual. So as an anthropologist, that was one of my favorite courses at Georgetown.
Me too, actually, I love that.
I love that course.
Yeah.
And you're in the field, right? You're in the field, you're observing. And every time I'm with a new group of people or a new person or a new culture, I'm thinking, what are the codes of conduct here? How are people speaking? How are they dressed, right? Like all these things. What's the slang they're using? Even like their accent. And it's about adjusting yourself so that you, like, for example, what you do with your different friends is partly because you want them to feel comfortable around you.
Yeah.
And then that makes you feel comfortable around them. Again, it goes back to human belonging.
Mm-hmm. I notice you sway, and I feel like I have this too, you sway really well between all the guests on your shows. Like you kind of mold to them where you're still yourself fully, but you can tell you speak in a way or make certain jokes at certain times that's going to make them comfortable and feel safe.
Totally. I mean, you know, episode 1, I had Steph teach me how to twerk.
Yeah, and that's actually what I was thinking of when I just said that. That's who I was thinking of, you and Steph. Yeah. And I feel like we're only getting glimpses in the show of what is actually happening between all of you, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's really, really deep. And those relationships I form with them are relationships for a lifetime. We're still very close. We're messaging all the time.
Really?
I haven't been able to see them because they're in Australia, which is where we shot. But they're always giving me little life updates.
Oh, I thought it was New Zealand. I noticed that the accent of all of the teachers that you brought had a
Yeah, the Aussie
and I was like,
accents.
this was not shot here. Yeah. What about, speaking of Steph in that episode, but also I've noticed it's a theme with the second episode with the guy, and then I think there was maybe a third where her name was, where you made the dumplings together.
Oh, Rochelle,
she was great.
Beautiful.
Yeah, she's my favorite.
Yeah.
I'm like a fan now. And, but, you know, it reminded me to ask you about clothing and why that's important, because in all those episodes, there was something, whether it was the women or the men, where you helped them or shifted something in what they wore.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, clothing and the way we present ourselves is such an important part of our identity, and also makes a first impression, right? Mm-hmm. And in my book, I actually talk about how, so I grew up in, you know, most of my childhood, I grew up in Hong Kong. And then I went to boarding school in the States. I went to Phillips Exeter Academy at the age of 14. So I was initially wearing what cool girls in Hong Kong wore, you know, at the age of like 13, 14. I had like 4 piercings down my ear. I was wearing Jinko jeans. Like,
which Hong Kong is very cool.
Yeah,
I've been, and I remember noticing the style. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was wearing these like super tight little tank tops by Roxy. That I'm shocked. They were so tight. I'm shocked my parents even let me wear them. And I had like a belly ring, right? And like these flared Jinko jeans. And I landed on Phillips Exeter's campus where everybody was wearing, you know, J. Crew, Abercrombie and Fitch, carrying Vera Bradley bags. And after about a week, I went to like the local mall and I like swapped out my wardrobe. And I have to say, like, because from the one perspective, somebody could say, oh, you lost yourself. But honestly, when you're 13, 14, you don't really know who you are yet. And I'd say that I found different parts of myself. And also, I was in a Northeastern super preppy boarding school. So I wanted to also be part of this community, right? Integrate into the community and let other people feel that, again, human belonging, human connection.
Yeah, it's like very tribal too. The funny thing that comes up to me that when I think about costumes, right? Because that's what clothing is. I have a friend, she's I think probably 85 now. Her name is Valerie von Sobel, and she was a big star in the 50s and dated like Marlon Brando and Elvis and all these people. She's amazing.
Wow.
And when I first met her, because she wears these costumes everywhere we go, people stop and want to take her photo just from how she's dressed. That's
amazing.
And she was like, darling, she still has that accent. And she's like, life is a costume party. And, she says, that's what it is. We wear something to the tennis court. We wear something to the beach. We wear something else to weddings. Life is a costume party. And she said, I remember she told me, she said, you can have 10 PhDs and no one will be interested. But you walk into a room wearing a turban and diamond earrings and everybody wants to know who you are.
She's so right. And you know what? Like, one of my favorite quotes by Oscar Wilde is, it's always something like, basically, it's always better to be overdressed than to be underdressed. At least, that's what he said. And it goes with, again, like when you think of dress codes, it's a code. It's a code for how, like you said, tribal, right? How to fit into this tribe. So when people say cocktail, when people say like smart casual, or black tie.
So true.
Like goes back to, it's the costume for the code.
So true. And then you immediately know, okay, I also know what I'm going to.
Yes.
Right? And what the expectation is.
Exactly to that mindset of like, okay, right, what am I going to be? Like, who am I going to meet with?
Yeah. Another thing Valerie said is kind of what you said about first impression. She says, what you're wearing says everything about you before you ever say a word. So people already kind of have an idea of who you are when you walk in.
Totally. I mean, because that first impression takes 2 seconds or less.
And then do you know who Diana Vreeland is?
Oh, yeah, the Vogue.
The best, yeah. If anybody hasn't seen it, there's a documentary I've watched maybe 20 times, and it's called The Eye Has to Travel, and it's just her talking for like an hour and a half. It's these tapes of her and some interviews that they mixed in, but oh my God, incredible. But one thing was a model. Actually, she might have been from Shanghai or Japan, I can't remember. And she was like a supermodel in the day. And she said she used to make us get manicures and pedicures and full on beautiful like toes, even if we were wearing military boots on the runway. Because she said, if you know your toes look perfect, you will walk more confident, even if no one can see them.
I love that. To me, it's because I recently started a intimate wellness brand. And our tagline for that is, it's the care that nobody sees, but the confidence that everyone notices.
Can we talk about that brand?
Yeah,
is it just for women?
Actually, I do have some guy friends, mostly my gay guy friends, who've also purchased the product and really love it. But it's intimate wash, intimate spray, intimate wipes. So think of it as skincare for the vulva.
Oh my God, my friend Andrea, I know she's watching, is gonna love this. She's Asian, she's from the Philippines, but she talks all the time. She's like, Frank, Asian women, she's like, we just take care of ourselves better than anyone. And she's like, she's like shocked by her American friends. She's like, you don't do that? And she's like, because she's like, Frank, like before a date, she tells me everything she's doing, and it's like a lot.
And especially Filipino women, like my Filipino friends, they really invest in themselves. And also Asian cultures, we believe in prevention. So I've been wearing SPF since I was like 10. So literally as soon as I leave the door, if I don't have SPF on my face, I feel naked. And that was something my mother really drilled into me. So I wasn't really a makeup girl, but I'm a big skincare girl.
But it's also a lot sexier, like Korean skincare, for example, or Japanese skincare. Like in America, maybe it's changed now, but growing up, you just, it's that, what's the one with the little girl with her like bikini and like the dog is pulling at it? I can't remember, but it's this big brand, but it's like thick, white, chemical.
Oh.
Like you're not going to want to wear that ever.
It's awful.
You know what I mean? So
Yes.
I think it's not part of it's not appealing. So nobody ever wore it unless you're going to the beach because it smells like the beach, all that. But Korean skincare, it's like tinted, it has a nice finish, there's like 20 different kinds, there's beneficial ingredients in it. So I think the culture was just built differently.
And you know something? I think the success of Korean beauty has made the American consumer receptive to Asian beauty.
Good point.
Yeah, and so I mean, Korea's done a lot for Asian culture in terms of bringing Asian culture, right? Like educating the world about Asian culture. And I grew up in Hong Kong. I grew up with herbal remedies as a kid, like whether it was drinking herbal soups or acupuncture, gua sha, cupping, all these things. And I still do them to this day. So, and in fact, I bring them out in my Netflix show.
You do.
So as part of the makeover.
And the pulse, which I never knew. I've done that with Indian people a lot, and I didn't know that was part of Chinese culture.
So literally, I mean, within seconds. So what happens is a TCM doctor, they usually put 3 fingers on your wrist, and usually they're looking for 3 different pulses. There's like a spleen pulse and this pulse and that pulse. But they can, it's like a scan of your whole body.
Yeah.
They can even know if you're pregnant.
Wow.
Like just from doing this, because the beats will be slightly different. And based on that, they'll say, oh, you know, is your period late? Or, oh, are you having trouble with this? Are you having trouble with that? And then they customize herbs for you, or, you know, acupuncture, this and that. So I'm really passionate about traditional Chinese medicine. And that's why me and my co-founder, Annie, whose family business is TCM, we just launched Antivorta, which in Roman mythology means goddess of the future. And where all of our formulation is clean, it's using TCM herbs.
So it's actually not just cleaning, it's benefiting.
It's benefiting. So it fights odor, dryness, and irritation. And in TCM, in traditional Chinese medicine, we believe a woman's health begins from her ovaries, actually from her feminine health. Even your period is a report card of your health. Are you regular? Heavy or light flow? Do you have blood clots? Are you going into early menopause, which a lot of celebrities have publicly come out. Naomi Watts has said she went into early menopause at 38, when you're really supposed to go into menopause at 51. Right? So these are really, really real issues that women are finally talking about in the open now. And we really wanted to focus on that.
You know, I like obviously won't pretend that I know anything about menstrual cycle, but when I was, I've done a lot of like ayahuasca ceremonies and a lot of things with shamans in Peru, in Costa Rica, in Mexico, but like deep, right? Not like in the cities. And one thing I will never forget from a shaman that was speaking to the women, and she said, like, to know how powerful your period is, she's like, if you're on your period, you can't be in ceremony, you're not allowed, because it's stronger than the medicine, it's stronger than the spirit of the medicine, and the shamans can't even contain that. It's too powerful. So if women were menstruating, they weren't allowed to sit in ceremony. That's the first thing. Second thing is, she said, like in their tradition, they always give the blood to the earth. And like it's really powerful to give it to the earth. So they would hold it and like put it at a tree or something like that.
Wow.
That's when I first realized, like, wow, feminine power is like extraordinary, but it's been suppressed a lot.
Oh yeah, and even in Chinese religions too, we say if you're menstruating, you should not enter a temple.
Wow.
So actually, it's quite similar. And
but I feel like people here would interpret that as like, oh, we're being discriminatory, but it's not that.
Oh, it's not that at all. Yeah, and also, for example, we say that if a woman's on her period, you shouldn't be going and doing exercise. You should be taking care of yourself. And in the olden days, I mean, the Chinese term for period was called heavenly waters.
Wow. Yeah, it's powerful. So your brand is called what again?
Antivorta.
Antivorta. This is great. I mean, I think that's needed. I've seen a lot of feminine care where maybe it's not toxic, but not necessarily where it's herbal, like it's actually benefiting you.
Oh yeah, we are the first femcare brand to be formulated with traditional Chinese medicine.
Wow, good for you. How do you feel about facial hair on men?
That is a great question.
In this kind of setting, because I actually shaved today and I did not want to.
Wow.
Because I thought, and I always shave, I have a clean face always, but the last 3 days didn't, and I kind of was like, oh, I like it. I like the shadow. And I was like, but you know what? I'm meeting an etiquette coach, let me shave. So then I thought, what is your thought on that?
I don't mind a bit of like beard on a man.
Even in this setting, it would be okay.
Oh yeah. I mean, obviously, to be clean shaven is considered much more. It depends. So, for example, if we were like in this setting, I love the fact that you shaved to see me because it's a form of respect. But also, I mean, I wouldn't be offended if you had, because I roll with all sorts of different looking people. So I wouldn't be offended if you did have a bit of stubble.
Okay, got it. Good to know.
I
Perfect.
like a bit of.
My next interview is with Rainn Wilson. I'm gonna not shave for the next 4 days. Sorry, you were saying something.
Yeah, I think because Asian men, it's hard to grow a beard.
Right.
So it doesn't look that great on them, and they know it. But on Caucasian men,
it can fill
Yeah,
in maybe.
you're hairy enough.
Okay, yeah.
To grow a good beard.
Okay, my next question is about Feng Shui. I have to ask you, which by the way, is it Feng Shui or Feng Shui?
It's Feng Shui.
Feng Shui.
Feng Shui.
There are some things that obviously I will not know, and I want you to answer, but there are some things that felt very intuitive in the show where you were telling like one guy he had a skeleton dog and you were like, don't do that, it's a dead thing. And that to me would be a very intuitive thing, and it shocks me that people don't know that. Or the dead flowers another woman had. I would never. I remember one woman gave me like an antler ear and I had it in my place for a little bit and I was like, I don't know, it's something that the antler shed, I don't want it, and I went and put it outside. So tell me about that.
Well, you know what? You are more sensitive. Like you're that means that you're an energy sensitive person, because
sure.
you'd be surprised a lot of Americans are not. And it's the same thing with like if you have disturbing art in your house. I mean, I was at my friend's house, they have a beautiful home, but they had this like, as an artwork, they had this crocodile with its jaws open, facing like the family dining table.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah, I know
So-
exactly what you mean.
Yeah, or even like dark and disturbing artwork, which I
Yeah.
talk about on the show as well. Like you're bringing that energy into your home. So that's like it's like a big thing in Feng Shui.
But there's also like other Feng Shui, right? Well, actually, I'll stick with this for a little bit first, because when you said intuitive, I thought of something. When I moved into my condo a year ago, I had a woman come in and kind of look at everything from a Feng Shui perspective.
Wow, so you had a Feng Shui master.
Yeah.
I am impressed.
I don't know if she's a master. I think she dabbled.
Good for you.
But you know what is interesting though? She was like, Frank, this is your fame corner and you have all 4 of your Emmys there already. She said, this is your corner where you need to have it was like I don't know what they called it, maybe shrine or something. She said, you're supposed to have religious things here. And I had a Buddha there. I had a little saint that I got in Cyprus. I have my little Krishna statue. Like it was all already there. And so she was like, okay, intuitively, like the only thing she added was that I needed yellow in one corner and a piece of metal somewhere else. Other than that, she's like, this is what I would suggest.
Right. Yeah, so intuitively, like you are sensitive to these things. And Feng Shui at the end of the day, it should feel good. Like good Feng Shui should feel good.
So tell me the purpose. Is it
Yeah.
to bring in money and luck and all that, or is it more to feel good?
Every aspect of your life. So Feng means wind, Shui means water. So wind and water, that's what Feng Shui means. But it's really based on like 金木水火土, so metal, wood, fire, earth, like all these elements, and they have to be in balance. But I hope that she asked for your birth chart before she did this.
She did not. Ooh, she didn't.
Yeah, the first thing you give a Feng Shui master is your 八字, B-A-Z-I. 八 means 8, 字 means characters. So these 8 characters are the year, month, date, and time of your birth. And in fact, from the time you were born, a Feng Shui master should be able to calculate the day you will die. But they can't tell you because that's a secret of the heavens.
Well, this is very interesting because I'm studying right now Vedic astrology. I just signed up for a university course, and
I love that.
I love Vedic. I've been going to 2 people for years now, but now I'm suddenly like so into it that I want to learn everything about the planets. The more I see, in fact, this is it's like a difficult week for me, and it starts today. For the next week, it's supposed to be like a really hard week. So even I like check my phone as soon as I woke up. I'm like, is Sara Jane still coming? Is everything okay? Is my camera, everything's good? All right, like, because I'm like treading waters, because I've had this before where I see everything they say. They'll tell me, they said, you're going to sign a contract on February 11th, and I will. Like, they're so accurate. And it's like you said, they can tell you when you're going to die. They, I think, will tell you, but I just have never wanted to know.
Yeah. And actually, like, all these things are global, right? It's just different cultures' ways of interpreting the same thing. So I believe there are probably a lot of similarities between Vedic and Feng Shui. And so, the first thing a Feng Shui master should do, which actually is in episode 6 of Mind Your Manners, we have a Feng Shui master come to Bunny's house, and you can see he has a birth chart, and based on that, it's very personal. So sometimes if it's a couple living in a or a whole family in a house, it's like, oh, well, this person should have yellow here, but that person yellow maybe is bathroom. So you have to balance and juggle a lot of things.
Interesting, yeah.
But usually people will consult a Feng Shui master, usually like after breakups or after something bad happens, right? So it's something bad in the relationship, maybe, or like something's not smooth going with business. that is usually what spurs people to be like, all right, like I'm going to find a Feng Shui master.
Well, I remember you saying in one of the episodes, and actually I have a future question about this I might get into, but where you talk about Feng Shui, it's in your book. So again, the book,
Yep,
just, I don't know if I even said the title there, it's called Mind Your Manners, just like the show.
Yeah.
But there's Feng Shui tips, but also like not just furniture, there's like love Feng Shui. And one of them was not holding on to things that belong to that person. And you know what I did before this episode? And I swear it was not planned that way. Right, Trey? I gave Trey a leather jacket that was in my car, and I said, you know, I put this in my car a week ago intuitively because it was given to me by a friend that I no longer talk to and haven't talked to in a couple of years. And I saw it in my closet recently, and I thought, I don't want to hold on to this. And I put it in my car thinking, next time I see somebody who this would look good on, I'm going to give it to them. I also thought intuitively, like, I'm not supposed to sell this to like a thrift store or something, but I need to give it because it was gifted to me. I'm going to gift it to someone else. And I did that literally today, right before this interview, as we were unloading the gear.
There you go. I mean, I'm a big believer of that because especially if it's somebody who has a reason for no longer being in your life, right? You want to let that energy go. And I always like to thank it for what it's given me, but then move on.
I didn't thank it. Thank you, leather jacket. That's very good. That's kind of a Marie Kondo thing too.
It is, and I love Marie Kondo. I loved her book.
She's good.
Loved her book.
Hey, I just really quickly want to tell you about the necklace that I'm wearing. You might see me wearing it in a lot of these episodes. I actually give it to many of the guests too. They're from Lila Quantum Technology, and as you can see, there are little capsules inside that are supercharged with what they call quantum energy. And it's just like walking around with one of the full-sized infinity blocks with you wherever you go. So you can get those on the website too and be quantumly upgraded wherever you go. There's one creative solution. Oh, this is in your book. I have to read this. I think this is word for word, as close as I can get. You wrote, there's one creative solution to the problem of dealing with unpleasant people. Kill them with kindness. Some people think this means being truly nice, but it does not. It means, quote, to cause discomfort to someone by treating him or her in a way that is extremely kind or helpful. The key word here is discomfort. If you are rude, you will be playing right into the other person's hands. They will congratulate themselves on having gotten to you.
Yeah, that is probably one of my favorite paragraphs that I wrote in the book. Yeah.
Tell me more.
And because people also think, oh, you know, if you have good etiquette, does it mean that you can deal with, you know, putting up with somebody else's bad manners or letting somebody, you know, walk all over you? And not at all. And sometimes, you know, we do come across extremely difficult people who just have something against us or are just trying to get a rise out of us, right? For a lot of my Instagram followers, they say it's their mother-in-law. And also, you know, for men as well, whether for men or women, they often say it's their mother-in-law. But you can't be rude to your mother-in-law, right? Like that's like a lose-lose situation. So just kill her with kindness. I mean, I'm lucky to I've had some really terrible, well, actually all my boyfriends' mothers were lovely except for one. I ended up not being with him, thank God. And now my mother-in-law she's a really kind person, so I think I really lucked out.
But the one before though, did you kill her with kindness?
It was the one before. It was the one before I got married, and you know, and she was just really. I mean, she was a very unhappy woman herself, and so, you know, I think unhappy women, like unhappy people, people who are mean are unhappy usually.
Yeah.
You know, so she was just trying to make my life really difficult, and I would just kill her with kindness.
Did it work?
Well, yeah, I think she was just like frustrated that, I mean, I never said anything out of line. You know, I was always like, oh, auntie, like, yeah, so. And she said something rude, I would just be silent, you know, or I would just ignore it and then say something nice again.
So if somebody's watching and they're like, that's really difficult for me to do, what advice would you give? Like, how would you help? Let's say somebody's on your show and they're like, it's really hard because I know exactly what to say that'll cut them down. How do I not do that? What would you say to them? So
I would say, like, when you show somebody that they cannot get a rise out of you, you're holding on to your power. If you lose your temper, if you get emotional, if you raise your voice, then the other person has the satisfaction of knowing that they got to you. Right? Like the best way you hold power is indifference.
But not just satisfaction, actually, now that I think about it, another guest on the show first season, said to me that they'll also be justified in it. Like, see, it's good that I was like that because that person, he was talking about like men fighting and he's like, if you just turn your other cheek and you're like, I'm not going to fight you, then they feel like an idiot. They feel embarrassed. you know? And he's like, but if you push them back or whatever, then they feel like, yeah, see, this guy deserves it. And then, you know what I mean? It's like, it's almost like justifying their action.
Very true. Yeah. So you don't want to give them any reason to justify, right? And then also you don't want to, like, indifference is the greatest form of power, right? Like so for even when you think about, let's say you get over you've broken up with somebody, right? If you're still, like, you're truly over them when you can see them and it just doesn't cause you, like, you're just indifferent.
So true.
And you're just happy for them and you're totally indifferent. And that's when, you're your strongest self.
Yeah, so true. I think about also, I don't know how you deal with this being a public figure, but when I like see a certain YouTube comment, and in the past, I'm talking years ago, right? Like 10, 5, whatever years ago, I would have said something snarky or whatever. And now one of my favorite things to do, I hardly ever read the comments, but every now and then I'll pop in and I'll see something. And if you kill them with kindness, a lot of times they become a fan for life and they become like, they really respect you for that. And they're like I remember one time somebody said something and I was like, hey, it sounds like you're really whatever, unhappy or whatever. Can you explain more? Whatever. I said something nice. All of a sudden they were like, yeah, Frank, it's been like a rough whatever few years. And, I've actually watched all your videos and I really love them. This one just kind of whatever. And then we had like a little dialogue. And by the end they were like, you rock. Thank you so much. Like it had completely switched who they were. Maybe they don't think you're going to see it. Maybe they don't think you'll respond or you're a real person, right? It like shifted everything.
I oftentimes say, so there's this Chinese proverb and it says, it's mainly talking about men. But it's saying that men respond to softness, not hardness. But I think that's for anybody, men or women. And so if somebody comes at you hard and you go back at them hard, then it just gets harder, right? But if someone goes at you hard and you come in soft, it brings them down and they become soft too.
Interesting. Yeah. Beautiful. There was a woman who I talked to, she's in New York and she was in Vogue and all kinds of magazines. She does eyebrow art for people, but like she's French and her whole thing is like subtle. Like they look like real lines, not like tattoos, But it's for women who also have had like cancer or something and they want, it's like, she does it very natural and beautiful. And she said, she has a lot of famous clients. And one of them, she said, Frank, I looked at her page and on her most recent Instagram photo, she had hundreds of comments. All of them were like, you're so beautiful, you're so amazing, you're so pretty. One was negative, and she only responded to that one. Wow, and what kind of response was it? Not a nice one. But the point is that's what she noticed. Like she said, the friend told me, she said she didn't even, all the other ones didn't even have a like. They weren't even acknowledged. And it's not only her, obviously human mind does that, right? The human mind will trick you. And if it's an unmeditative mind, I'll say, or an untrained mind, someone who hasn't done the work will only focus on that. That's all they'll see. That's all they can see.
And it's, in some ways it's a mirror, right? Like it's like, I mean, in some ways just maybe projecting. But for me, if I see any negative comments, I just don't reply. I don't feed it. You don't want to put energy to it. You don't want to feed it.
Yeah. Okay, another line from the book.
Yeah.
Actually, this one won't be it's not word for word. It's actually about a whole section. You have a whole section dedicated to work etiquette.
Okay.
Oh, mother-in-law. I did see, actually, there was one question. I don't know if it might have been it was a clip that I saw where people asked you about like, if you're a woman and you're riding with your husband and the mom is coming to your mother, does she sit in the back or in the front? And I totally agree with you. Let her sit in the front, right? It's respect.
Yes, respect older people. But anyway, so this is about work etiquette.
Work etiquette. You have a whole section about it. And there's one part that I wanted to focus on, I guess. It's called, it's about decoding the system. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so decoding the system in a work environment. Mm-hmm. So I think this really goes back to microcultures again. And, it's funny. I mean, a lot of people who work at, especially whether it's even if it's a small company or a big company, but especially the bigger company, the more political it is, people can get really upset from office politics, right? I mean, office politics can really bring you down. If you are not happy at your job, then it really affects the way you go about your life. So I often say that, like your office or different departments are also microcultures. And it's important that, you want to walk the fine balance of leaving a positive impression, right? Letting your coworkers, having a good relationship with your coworkers and your boss, but knowing how to draw the line between, okay, these are your work friends and how like, and you don't, I mean, you want to also maintain that distance as well, right?
But you don't think we should blend?
Well, no, but this isn't your best friend who you should tell all of your marriage issues, right? Or like, really personal things.
Even if you get drinks out of after work and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, like you should know how to toe the line. And because you want to put your most professional self forward at work. And so, I mean, decoding the system, I'm trying to think of exactly what that was.
Honestly, I didn't go through because there was so much around. It was like, I think it might have also been it was like in your opening paragraph about it, but then you went into multiple different sections as well.
Oh yeah, so there are probably like multiple anecdotes.
There was a lot, yeah. Is there anything that you think is a good, just general
Let's take
rule?
a look.
All right, yeah.
Let's take a look. Page 61 is work.
Oh, I love that you knew that.
And
was there any feng shui with this book in you writing it, as far as like numbering or pages or anything like that, or is that too difficult?
No, actually, that was not.
No. What about like the release date? Was that planned?
No, actually.
Really? Because you know what I did with the podcast?
Yeah.
I asked my Vedic astrologer, but you know what's wild? I had chosen April 20th. And then I did my, January, every January I do my year report. And January I said, hey, by the way, I'm launching a podcast in April. Is that a good thing to do? He said, yes, that's like the perfect month to do it. And I said, well, can you give me what date? He looked at my chart and he goes, April 20th. And it was already the launch date.
Oh my God, that is amazing.
How wild is that? Out of the whole year, in January, he chose the date that I literally already had the launch date. I had already posted it on Instagram saying April 20th, new podcast.
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, when I'm given the choice, sometimes I'll check. Like, for example, launching my business Anti-Water, that launch date, February 15th, was like chosen.
Okay.
But my publisher just informed me, and I was like, okay.
I guess that happened, yeah. I had an Oracle deck last year, and yeah, they chose it. Like, they changed the cover, they changed everything.
Yeah. So there you go. Decode the system.
Well, you know what? Forget the system. This is really interesting on page 73. Feng Shui tip. Now that you've landed the job, finding your desk's commanding Kao
shan position.
Kao shan.
Yeah. Okay, so Kao shan, Kao means support, shan means mountain. And a Kao shan is a good thing in Chinese, right, in the Chinese language. And the way, let's say, whether it's a home office or if it's, in your office, the best way to have your office desk set up is to have it so that your back is against a wall, because the wall is your support mountain.
Interesting.
And then you should be able to look out, and ideally you should be able to see as much of the room as possible, and you should particularly be able to see the door.
So we're actually good, like right here.
Yeah, we're really good.
We each have a wall behind us. We can see the whole room. We can see the door.
Yes. And so, for example, the worst desk position to have is, let's say, if your desk is up against a wall and you're facing the wall.
I see that all the time. I don't know if you do, but I was at Disney before and every office was like that.
All the time. And that's bad because it limits growth, right? Because you don't have anything in front. You're literally facing a wall, right? It inhibits growth, inhibits development. And then oftentimes your back is to the room, or even worse, your back is to the door. And that's leaving you open to office politics and backstabbing.
Whoa. If you leave... If your back is to the room, you.
Yeah, and because you can't see who's coming in and out. And if your back is to other people or to the rest of the room, right? Then it's not a safe position. You're vulnerable.
It's like that with your room too, where I think in Feng Shui, isn't it that you shouldn't be your feet in the bed shouldn't be facing the door? Is that right?
Yeah. So when you're lying down in your bed. And if your bedroom door is open, it should not be so that you could, you're literally, your feet are facing the door, because in the olden days, corpses would be put in that position in their house, ready to be carried out.
Interesting.
And that drains your energy.
I had a friend that you just reminded me. Her name was Melody, and she was Chinese, and this was in high school, and she told me to never sleep like this. Which I don't know who would, but she said, don't ever sleep with your arms crossed over, because that's like a corpse and you're inviting like death or something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It makes sense, but who would sleep like that, right?
Yeah, I haven't heard that specific one, but hey, maybe. Yeah.
I have one more thing from the book too. And it's about, actually it's going to be in 3 parts. So I love that we just keep going to Feng Shui as well.
Yeah.
But the Feng Shui of relationships, or of love, you call it. And there's something here where you talk about the power behind giving away gifts, which we talked about. Another one is, I'll never forget, and maybe I can give you 3 scenarios, and you can tell me maybe the power or the reasoning behind each one. One is, I met this girl in Vegas. We both had been invited to a Chainsmokers concert, and we were backstage. We met, we had dinner, And she said, every time I see a guy that would be like my perfect husband that I would like, and he's with a girl, she said, before I used to be like, it's not fair, or she's so lucky. She said, now I say, thank you, God, for my perfect husband. Thank you, God, for my perfect husband. So she had changed it. Then she said she added in her, because she had a bed, she was living by herself, she had a nightstand. She added another nightstand to invite in the space the energy of another person being there with her. I swear to God, Sara Jane, 6 months after meeting her, I'm seeing on Instagram, and I've met him since, she's married to this like man of her dreams. It's been like 6 years, they're still together. Tell me about like that story.
Oh, yeah. Well, in the bedroom, if you're a single person, in the bedroom, you want doubles. Because you want your bedroom to be set up so that there's space for another person to enter. So you do not want a single bed, for example. You don't want a single nightstand, right, like your friend. You don't want your closet to be completely stuffed with no space for more clothes.
Oh, God. That's
You want to have a double bed. You want to have like two night tables. In fact, a girlfriend of mine, I gave her as a gift because she just started a relationship with it. You know, we all felt like, okay, he should be the one. And I gifted her a pair of red doves, a pair of them. And I said, put them in your bedroom, right? Because it's red, which symbolizes marriage and love. Actually, pink symbolizes flirtation and red symbolizes marriage.
interesting.
So if you're wearing pink today, then you would attract what we call like peach blossoms. No, but peach blossom is good. It depends if you're in a relationship or not.
No, I'm not.
Well, then you definitely want it.
That, but
yeah,
it's
you
just
want that.
flirty.
You want that. No, but the more people you flow with, the better. And from that, you can choose.
Okay. Then you switch to the red sweater.
Exactly. So once you're in a relationship, so she was dating, right?
Yeah.
But she wanted to solidify, and I was like, well, then I give her red, you know. And so she had these pair of red doves she put on her nightstand, and she told him too, and he loved it.
Wow, she told him.
Yeah.
Do you recommend that normally, like being open with your spouse? The reason I ask is I have somebody right now actually, and her psychic, you know, her tea reader basically was like, this person is going to come into your life, and she described him to the T. And this was months ago, and now this girl is like freaking out because and they're very specific things, like very specific. And all of them are happening. And so I said to her, I said, don't ever, even if you guys end up getting married, you never mention this. Don't say you knew.
I think it's okay. I think it's okay. If you're already getting married, like I would.
Then it's fine to be like, hey, guess what? This is funny, but I knew you were coming.
But I mean, there's no downside to that.
Okay.
Now, if you're putting a hex on someone, like maybe you don't want to tell them, you know?
Or maybe don't do that. Because karmically, that's so not good.
But you know what? Because I have a girlfriend, her brother was dating this girl from Malaysia, and Southeast Asia is known for a lot of black magic. And I think they found out that the girlfriend had like put some kind of hex on him.
To make him fall in love. I've heard that so much, and just even being Middle Eastern, and like there's a lot of that. But it's also really, I mean, my family warned me from very beginning, like don't ever get involved in anything like that, ever. Karmically, it's so bad. Don't even mess with it. Don't even look at it. Don't be tempted. Don't, and I never have.
Exactly. So Feng Shui is like, it's not black magic. Like that's like really, Feng Shui is just about improving your current status, basically.
Heard that so much, and just even being Middle Eastern, and like there's a lot of that. But it's also really, I mean, my family warned me from very beginning, like don't ever get involved in anything like that, ever. Karmically, it's so bad. Don't even mess with it. Don't even look at it. Don't be tempted. Don't, and I never have.
Exactly. So Feng Shui is like, it's not black magic. Like that's like really, Feng Shui is just about improving your current status, basically. Well, another good thing for harmony, let's say like family harmony, is to have fewer sharp corners. So the more rounded tables or like rounded corners you can have, then the more harmony there will be in the home.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things this woman told me, because I have 4 Emmys, so like at first they were all like, I know, but this is just an example, but it was like they're all straight, and she was like, have them kissing. So now 2 of them are like this, and the other 2.
I love
and then
that.
in my kitchen I have 2 teapots, and she's like, put them together, because they were like one here, like table ends. She's like, no, together, and she's like, always pairs, like put them together.
That is really, I love that. And then another thing is like, for example, for your bed, if you're single and you want to have, or even if you're in a relationship, you don't want to have your bed pushed up against a wall. You want there to be enough space for somebody to enter on both sides.
Oh, okay.
Right, this as well.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah. Not the back, not the bed frame, but both sides. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So that was scenario 1 with the friend in Vegas. Scenario 2, I already told you about. the jacket, giving away the jacket. So can you maybe tell me about the importance of why,
Yeah.
even if it ended, whether it ended good or badly, it's still, you don't want that karmic attachment?
Yeah, so in Feng Shui, we say, even let's say like for a woman, her partner position is called a guan wei, like it's called like an official space. Okay, official meaning like kind of like a man, like a not like a government official, but like it's like a more, basically means a man. Okay, and they often say like if
So you're saying in the house there's like a corner for that?
oh
that
no, like just
that,
in her
or?
life. So let's say in a person's life,
Okay.
there is a space for your partner. And if you stay in a relationship that you shouldn't be in, that's not good for you, even because sometimes people will say, oh, well, I'll just like stay in this relationship until I meet someone new.
Right.
No, you need to remove this person so that that space is free and available to invite a new person into your life. Right. And then the same thing with objects that were gifted to you by, an ex or something, like, especially if it has a lot of sentimental value. You don't want to keep that in your life every day because, again, that's taking up part of your energy. So you want to giving it to another friend, regifting, and even saying like, this doesn't serve me anymore, but it's still a really nice jacket or it's still a really nice box or something is the best way to free up that space.
What's your thought on, because I hear this all the time, like if a man gives a woman an engagement ring, does she give it back if she ends it?
I've given it back.
You've given it back?
Yeah.
You've also done, okay, this is a good, you talk about, it's like, I think your opening line in the book that you dumped a guy
yeah.
on text messages.
To that
Oh, that's
guy.
who you gave it to? And you dumped him on text?
Yeah, well, you know how journalists are. Like, they take
the etiquette
one
coach
line.
who dumped, it's
like
clickbaity. Yeah.
Yes. So
wait, let's read the line.
yeah, let's read the line.
You
can read
had
the line.
this headline in the New York Times,
Yep.
and it says, "The etiquette guru who broke up with a boyfriend over text."
Yes. And when that first came out, I was like cringing. I was like, oh my God. And then I forwarded it to my cousin, who I'm staying with in LA. We're really close. And she was like, OMG. And then she read it. And 10 minutes later, she was like, you know what? This is the best title. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, this is growing on me. And then I put it on my Instagram, which, it's a New York Times style profile.
For sure.
And then a lot of my ex's friends sent me the article and said, what a title! Exclamation point. But no, we had been on again, off again. And we'd been like, I'd been trying to break up for a while, but it was day 9 of shooting my Netflix show. And I was like, hang on. And he wasn't, he was not in Australia where I was shooting the show. But I was like, here I am telling my students to be their best selves. And then over here, I'm like fielding phone calls from this really like insecure and controlling boyfriend who's just making me cry over like nothing. And I was like, and I told him, I was like, I can only have one opportunity to shoot a Netflix show. Like, I'm showing up on set with red eyes and puffy eyes. I was like, done.
Wow, I love that story. I love that because it's like you're like helping other people and realizing I need to be doing what I'm saying. Yes,
exactly.
Yeah.
And actually, I learned a lot about myself as well from teaching my students. And then when I did that, because it's like sunk cost fallacy. I went to Harvard Business School, right? So we're like, It's like, oh, I'm 34 years old. I've been dating this guy for 4 years. Like, I've already sunk a lot of, cost into this relationship. Maybe
ROI,
I should just, just stay with it. Like, maybe this is as good as it gets. It's hard to find somebody these days. But at that point, I was like, you know what? I don't care if I'm single for the rest of my life. Because at this point of my Hong Kong girlfriends, I'm one of the last few who, basically like everybody else is married with 3 kids, right? And there were only a handful of us, 2 or 3 of us, like who were like really super party girls.
Yeah.
and then one who's a lesbian, right? Like who were not married. And I was like, you know what? I'm prepared to be unmarried for life. Like anything is better than like staying in this kind of shitty relationship. And so I basically, broke up, shot the show, went back to China, did my hotel quarantine for 14 days through Christmas Day and New Year's Eve in a hotel room. Came out, had my first date like in 2 days with my now husband. Like first date, 7 months later, legally wedded.
How'd you meet him?
He added me on WeChat.
Interesting.
Which is like,
I don't even know what that is.
It's like a Chinese super app. You know what Donald Trump is trying to ban?
Oh, yeah. Wow.
It's like WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook rolled into one.
So it's like social media and texting.
Yeah. It's like
cool.
the most amazing app in China.
Well, of course you're going to say that.
Oh, no, but I like use it every day. Every Chinese person pays their bills on it. Like, it's...
Oh, you can do everything on it.
Everything on it. Yeah.
Okay. That feels like so monitored, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it
who
is.
cares?
Yeah, yeah,
Who cares, right? At the same time, and this isn't really even relationship advice, but it falls into my questions here with the feng shui of things. It was about maybe 2 months ago where I was like looking at my wallet, and it's like a Louis Vuitton wallet, and it's leather. And I'm like, I'm putting my money in a dead thing. That doesn't feel right energetically. And then I immediately went online, and I don't care if it's cheaper and it's not designer, I don't care. And it's made of cactus. And I was like, I'm putting my money in that. Cactus, it's green, it's life, you know, I'm putting it in that. Is there anything to that?
You know something? I mean, I'm guilty of wearing, you know, I have leather bags, leather shoes. But so about a year ago, I started consciously eating less, like cutting out meat. I mean, I still every now, maybe in a month, I'll have it 1 or 2 times, but consciously eating, like not eating meat and consciously, mindfully choosing more greens because I kind of have the same feeling. But, you know, I used to be the kind of person where I used to make fun of vegetarians when I was in my younger days.
But
now I'm like basically vegan.
Yeah, I'm vegan. But, you know, it's for me though specifically, because I don't want to shame people who are not, putting your money into something that's dead or like putting your, you know what I mean? Like if it was more specific to like that, like is there something about, and it doesn't have to even be that example, but like things that you want in life, could you be shutting it out by putting it in something that it shouldn't be in, elementally?
You know, and I think that's very interesting. It shows that you really have switched on another part of your spirit for you to think that way. And I don't know if something happened during those days or, you know, that time where you suddenly...
It's like a pilgrimage every day in my life, Sara Jane, I swear.
And that is a
every day.
beautiful
I'll like
thing.
walk from the kitchen to my living room and I have like a full-on pilgrimage. Seriously, where I'm like, oh my God, flash.
Were you on shrooms at the time, maybe?
No, but it feels like it. I've done a lot of shrooms. I've done a lot of mushrooms. And it feels like that. It does. Man, maybe that's it. Maybe I've done so much plant medicines that now it's so, like, everything is energetic. That's why even some of the things you're doing on the show, and these people are really blown away. I mean, you'll see on my back, you mentioned cupping earlier. I have cupping marks now. I remember even being at ABC as a journalist, and I'd always have cupping marks, and people would be like, what are you doing? And I remember thinking, if they think this is weird, they should see what I'm doing in the jungles with the shamans. Like, you think this is cupping marks?
Yeah, this is nothing.
This is like 101. But you know what's funny is they always thought it was so weird. And then all of a sudden, I'll never forget, Michael Phelps had cupping marks right at the Olympics.
Exactly.
I got all these calls from journalists being like, we need to do this story. Michael Phelps is doing cupping. Where do we go? What do we do? They all suddenly wanted to know.
It was Michael Phelps and then it was Gwyneth Paltrow.
Oh, I didn't see Gwyneth
on the
do
red
it.
carpet, you know. So but yes, Michael Phelps, absolutely.
But isn't that funny how it's like,
and all the
it took
Chinese
that.
people were watching that clip and they were like, wow, white guy doing traditional Chinese medicine. We like that.
Suddenly it's a story though. Yeah. Oh, see, I'm such a, like, I need to be nicer because you're like, thumbs up. And I'm like, screw you. Now you want it? It's been around for thousands of years. Michael Phelps does it and suddenly you want it? You know?
You know, well, it's really interesting.
Nicer.
With like, so another thing is like in the West, there's this whole dialogue around cultural misappropriation, right? Where people should not be wearing clothing or you know, makeup or whatever of other people's cultures. But for us Chinese, when we see somebody who's not Chinese wear a qipao, we say, we love that. We love that.
Yeah.
You know, a Caucasian, like a white person or a black person or an Indian person is wearing our qipao. She looks great in it.
I'm with you on that. Even like as a Lebanese person, if I see someone doing something like Arabic, I'm like, that's cool. I love that. Like a rapper putting like Arabic music or something in their songs, I'm like, I love that. It's cool.
But then now in America they get canceled.
It's true. Yeah, I think we've become so sensitive. I did an episode about somebody who had gotten canceled and he's fine now. But yeah, it's like certain things. I think maybe finding the balance, right? Like being sensitive and maybe if you do it in a way that's appreciating the culture. I don't know. It's like a fine line. But yeah, I'm with you. I think it's cool. I think it's like, even Diana Vreeland, who we mentioned earlier, she would wear this like overly red rouge on her cheeks because she saw a geisha doing it in Japan and fell in love with it. So that was like her thing.
I love that.
Because she thought it was so beautiful. I mean, it's like overly red. You know what I mean?
Yes, I love it. Paired with her glasses, right? Like it's like...
Yeah, I don't remember if she was wearing glasses. Yeah, does she? I don't know.
But no, I love, like I say, I love that. Like
Yeah,
you
I
can
love
be
it.
inspired from different cultures.
Yeah, it's cool. I have a few more questions if you're open.
Yeah.
So, this actually leads perfectly. You're so intuitive. It's funny because it's just like your book. It's like reading your book. Because my next question was, what do you think is one of the biggest things that Americans can learn from Chinese culture?
I feel that there's a lot that the whole world can learn from cultures all over the world, right? And I feel that Chinese culture has a lot to offer. I think we don't do a great job as a country of marketing it, unlike Korea, right? Korea's done a really good job of marketing K-pop, right? K-beauty, all these things. And part of my mission of why I started this TCM-inspired intimate wellness brand, Anti-Vorta, is because I'm trying to bring the best of Chinese culture out. And everything I've done in my career for the past 10 years is East meets West, and empowering women. So I believe that the two things that Americans could probably find most useful from Chinese culture are, one, traditional Chinese medicine, two, Feng Shui.
Wow.
And even in my show, I say every girl should have a TCM doctor and a Feng Shui master.
And how often should they go? Every month?
Well, it really depends on you. I think it depends on, so for example, for me, I do acupuncture every week. Even when I come to New York or LA, I keep it up. And in New York, I go to a place where the practitioners are not Chinese. They're white, they're, all ethnicities. And I think it's great. And I don't mind that, they're learning acupuncture and they're doing it on me. So I get acupuncture done once a week, cupping once every 2 weeks. I do Chinese massage, tuina, once a week.
Oh, wow. Never heard of that. What is
it's
that?
great. It's
See,
like,
you don't do a good job of marketing. You're right. I get Thai massage. I've never heard of that. What is it?
Oh, the Chinese massage is like, they roll their sleeves up and really you will sleep like a baby. Every knot in your back will be like loosened. Yeah.
Interesting.
So, but the interesting thing is that actually TCM has really started trending in America now. For a woman, basically any woman who's trying to give birth, get pregnant, acupuncture is one of the top things that she has to do. So I have plenty of white girlfriends who've never been to China, and they're telling me that they're going to their acupuncture session.
I have a client actually who did that. She got help getting pregnant from acupuncture.
Because nothing else worked.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
oftentimes TCM is a means of last resort because Western medication didn't work, or they had to do some invasive surgery that they didn't want to do. So, and even like with back pain, so a lot of like shoulder pain, back pain, mental health, you put needles in the head.
I've done that,
So yeah, migraines and mental health, needles in the head. A lot of Americans have digestion issues, needles in the stomach. I remember like there were a couple of days where I was really clogged, wasn't going to the bathroom properly, had acupuncture done in my stomach. Literally as soon as I came off the acupuncture bed, I was running to the bathroom. A girlfriend I just saw in New York said when she was 34, she didn't have a period for 1 year.
Wow.
She went to an acupuncturist and she got it the next day.
Wow.
And the acupuncturist was white.
By the way, I have there was a woman, I don't know, she's Asian, but I don't know what country. She might have been Korean, but she was like 80 years old and looked 40. She looked incredible. And I went to her it was maybe once or twice a week for a year. I mean, I was obsessed. And now it's like I live further. So I went to this woman the other day, first time ever. She was a black woman and she was young and she was so good. She was incredible. But my point to that is, is that the head one that you mentioned, I felt euphoria, like actual euphoria laying there.
And you should fall asleep.
I did, yeah.
Yeah,
I did.
the best thing is to
And I don't nap,
rest.
like I can't nap. I'm like, go, and I would fall asleep.
As soon as those needles are in your head, you can't, like your eyelids just droop,
Do you feel like, because I remember the girl in your episode, she was terrified and they're in her ear. I don't understand. I guess I don't understand that. Maybe because I myself come from a different background, but I never was afraid of them at all. Is it that it's actually painful, or was she afraid of the needle?
Oh,
it wasn't clear in the show.
I think it was
terrified.
when Dr. Benny poked his finger in her ear.
She said, I've never had anybody touch me there. But then she did another.
And then she did acupuncture. She was fine.
Really?
Yeah, Ileana.
For some reason, I remember her being in pain.
No, she was just like, oh, I've never had anybody like tickle my ear like that.
Oh, okay. I've actually, so let's talk, and this can be the last thing, but the pulse, which is so interesting.
Yes.
I did a video with a guy, he's since passed away, but I'm really good friends with his son now. And he was the Ayurvedic doctor for Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa, the Dalai Lama, and he had become a really good friend of mine. And he would even just hear my voice over the phone if he was in India and tell me what was going on. But he did my pulse once, and he said, and that video got like 2 million views. He takes my pulse and he goes, you have a bulged disc. And I didn't tell him I had back pain, nothing. And he said, and it's in D5, D6. He told me where it was. And in the video, I go get an MRI and I had a bulge in D4, D5, D6.
That is amazing.
And I never knew that it was something that they did in Chinese medicine as well, which makes sense from those regions, especially thousands of years ago. There was a lot of crossover.
Totally.
First of all, are you trained in that or no?
I'm not trained.
Oh, okay.
I'm not trained, but my co-founder, Annie, her grandpa founded TCM clinics in Taiwan in the 1940s that are still operating to this day by her cousins.
So we can talk about that. And how does it tie into your brand as well? How does pulse reading work? And how does it tie into even your line? Not this necessarily that, but the TCM.
Well, I mean, with our products, because they're just products, right? So we don't do pulse readings for our customers or anything. But I grew up, I think the first time I had Chinese herbal soup was when I was maybe 4 or 5 years old. Because my parents, they were always in search of the best TCM doctor. They was always like flying around, China to go visit these TCM doctors. And because I'm an only child, they would just take me and be like, get our daughter done too.
So good.
I remember again, college actually, I came back and I think my period was late, maybe 2 or 3 months. But I didn't say anything to the Chinese doctor. She just felt my pulse. And she said, when was the last time you had your period? And I said, actually, it's been a while. It's been a couple months. And then she gave me herbs. And again, it came in 2 days. I mean, heavy flow, bright red, heavy flow, everything. So it really is, it's like a body scan. But for me, so I'm not 100% reliant on TCM or 100% reliant on Western. I like to get the best of both. For example, I just did a Prenuvo scan a couple months ago, right? Because I read about it and I was like, this is really cool. I feel like I should do it. I did it, right? And then it's also you get peace of mind, right?
But you can also what you see from that scan, you can incorporate maybe some Chinese medicine to help with that.
Exactly. And I showed which discs I had early arthritis in because I did horse riding as a child. And then I showed my acupuncturist and, so she saw it. So you're absolutely right. I bring the scans over but TCM is something I do on a regular basis, a weekly basis. And then the Western scans are something I do, maybe every 6 months or 1 year. And then it's also you get peace of mind, right?
But you can also what you see from that scan, you can incorporate maybe some Chinese medicine to help with that.
Exactly. And I showed which discs I had early arthritis in because I did horse riding as a child. And then I showed my acupuncturist and, so she saw it. So you're absolutely right. I bring the scans over but TCM is something I do on a regular basis, a weekly basis. And then the Western scans are something I do, maybe every 6 months or 1 year.
Well, thank you so much. This has been exciting.
Thank you.
I know that by the time my episode comes out, your book will already have been out.
It'll be hardcover. This has typos because this is the print galley that they printed.
Okay.
Yeah, so this isn't the final. This is 99%.
Really? Okay, but it still looks great. And for people to, I guess, get a quick idea, you cover really the big things that people look at in life. Yeah, it's right there. It's so simple. It's work, relationships, and food and travel.
And social life.
And social life,
And don't forget family. That's often one thing
that
that
I didn't
really
even see that.
gives us a lot of love and a lot of angst.
For sure, right? Thanksgiving and everyone, that's all of a sudden I get so many bookings. People wanting to clear their energy and it's so funny. I always, end of the year, Thanksgiving, Christmas, I get booked out for 4 months. In
China, it's Chinese New Year.
Oh, really?
That's
the whole family's together.
Because that's the Thanksgiving of China, basically, in February, January, February. And they go back and they're prepared to be grilled by their parents, why aren't you married yet?
Right.
When's your job? Blah, blah, blah.
What is the answer to that? If you're getting grilled about your marriage, why aren't you married? Which thankfully I have amazing parents with that, but what would you say?
Well, you know what's really funny? I often get asked, how do you respond to intrusive questions?
Oh, yeah.
And in China, it's actually not offensive. I mean, in the West, it's very offensive, but in China, when somebody first sees you and says, oh, you look like you lost weight. Oh, you look like you gained weight. Oh, are you dating? It's a sign of care. But kids can get a bit of anxiety about getting pressured to get married, blah, blah, blah. And in the book, I have this anecdote where my older cousin, Jaron, he's a guy, he had married his wife for maybe 4 or 5 years and they still didn't have kids. So as you can imagine, a lot of relatives were asking when are you going to have kids? When are you going to have kids? And he would deflect with humor. He would say something brilliant. He said, I will have children when Sara Jane gets married. Right, and he knows I'm sitting right there.
And all the attention goes to Sara Jane.
And then I was like, well, then you're never going to have kids because I'm never getting married. And then the attention goes back to him. Right? So just deflecting with humor and to not just don't take it too seriously. It only becomes an issue if you make it an issue. The only thing you control is your reaction to something.
Yes, for sure. Sarah Jane, thank you so much.
Thank you, Frank.
How fun. Wow.
It's really fun.
And you're really cool. You're not like what people would expect an etiquette coach to be, right? Like you're
I
like
like to
laid
go
back.
clubbing. Like
Not anymore,
sorry.
I'm sure. Still?
Still, yeah, once a month in Shanghai.
Really?
And
okay, I need to come to Shanghai again.
You do need to come to Shanghai. And then I drag my husband clubbing with me now.
Really?
So he's into it too.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I want to go. Like, I want to have the Shanghai experience with you or Hong Kong.
Hong Kong is great.
I loved it. I had such a good
Hong Kong is
time.
great. Hong Kong is
yeah,
great.
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Trey.
Ever since I wrote my goals down with the pen, my dreams and reality have both been blending in. I just hope that in the end, my debt don't extend me all my dividends. If it did, I'd have to keep pivoting. Turn the other cheek and down another dose of adrenaline. I don't need to pretend to live a life that I never did, cause I'm right where I need to be. You can see from